Subscribe Newsfront and press the bell icon for latest news and updates.
How are you, ma'am? Thank you so much.
I'm very good, thank you. You're most welcome.
And it's a pleasure to interview you.
Thank you.
So, how has been the day today?
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you so much.
Okay, so shall I begin with the interview?
Yeah, sure. You can
Okay,
start.
so first thing first, I would start with asking about you as a person and as a principal. How did you end up being an educator? How was the journey?
Okay. So this is my 30th year. I complete 3 decades in education. I started way back in 91. Honestly, when I started, I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a teacher or an educator. I was very young, and there was a summer job with a reputed school, which had just opened a chain in Delhi. It was a chain from Mumbai, and I thought, let me just take up. They had a leave vacancy. I joined there and for 2 months, and that's about it. And then there was no looking back. And over the years, in 30 years, I have been associated with number of boards, CBSE, IGCSE, ICSE. I'm also a trained IB facilitator for India, and both India and abroad. So that's my journey till now.
Okay, so how has it been? What contrast did you see in all the boards, and how was the experience?
So, Alka, honestly, each experience has been very, very different. And over the years, also, things have really changed. 30 years is a very, very long time. When I started teaching and what it is today, there is a drastic shift in the thought process of not only the parents, even as educators. So, over the years, I've learned a lot, and each board has their own pedagogy to deliver the content, which more or less remains the same. So in terms of the content, I don't see there is much of difference. But what is different is the approach that we follow to deliver the same content. And what I see a change now is a change from curriculum driven to child driven. So it's very personalized. It's more child centric than syllabus centric, which was initial part of my career.
Yes, of course, the content wise, we have not seen much change, but in the recent years, we have seen, drastic changes in the terms of, examination pattern. For example, introduction of NEET and IIT examination pattern change. So, as an educationist, what do you think? How healthy it is for students to see so much of change happening year after year? So are they mentally prepared? Do they get confused? Do they get scared? How do you deal with that?
So so change is something which is inevitable, and I think it is always for good. Any change brings more learning. It is a duty for the school to ensure that they are preparing their children well and right from the beginning. So if you've prepared your children, as a school, if you've prepared your children well to face the challenges, I don't think it affects them so much. And also, what is important is that more than the content, it is important to develop the right skills into the children. So it is up to a school how do we do it. But unfortunately, especially in India, we focus more on marks than developing the life skills and into the children, which are very essential, or developing the mindset or belief system in children, which eventually is more important than just the content knowledge of the subject.
Of course, of course. And as you say that it's important to strengthen them with skills rather than with the content with the students. But as a parent also, I see parents are also struggling because parents went through a different kind of education setup. The examination pattern were different, and they get confused, how to support their children when it comes to examination. And in fact, even in pre-primary, the whole pattern has changed of teaching students, the phonetics and everything. And we were in 90s when we were in school. It was not the pattern was not the same. So as a parent, also we are struggling. So how do you counsel parents?
So, see, let's understand that try and see what changes the education is getting and how does it benefit my child. You talk about 90s. I've done my education in 70s. Now,
Yes,
if I can change,
that.
so if and most of us, most principals, I mean, we've all done our education in 70s and 80s. So one has to be very open-minded. But as a school, we do a lot of things for our parents. At the Infinity School, we do regular workshops to orient them on how things are being done at school so that they are aligned to the school philosophy even at home. Just this Saturday around the corner, we have a reading workshop because we're very focused on reading programs. We have a phonic workshop for early years coming up. We have math, science. So we keep them aligned to the school philosophy and the pedagogies that we follow at school. So that's something that we do as an initiative to keep parents updated.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about another change, the recent national education policy. So it has attracted a lot of criticism as well. But what people are missing is that the whole focus is on vocational training. So what do you think? How important vocational training is at middle school level? Because 9, 8, 9, 10, all these classes are affected.
To me, NAP looks like one of the most dynamic policies that have ever come across. And let's see, after how many years, we have looked at revamping the education system. So I appreciate it with open arms, and I feel that and embrace it with open arms. This is definitely going to bring a lot of change in our education system, provided it is executed the way it has been put there. So the challenge India faces is the length and breadth of the country, and our national board, CBSE, has to deal with it. So the remote areas and the urban areas. So for me, it is one of the most dynamic policies that have come up in recent times. When you talk about vocational training, Alka, let's understand the bigger picture of it. That why there is a focus on the vocational training, because eventually they are looking at building, skills into the children. See, if you look at it, so the bottom line is it's not the content. Again, it's building the skills in the children to make them, so wherever they go, wherever they go tomorrow, they are, pathbreakers, and they know how to deal with situations. So that's the reason, and I think it's a very good step in the field of education.
Okay. And one aspect of national education policy is the medium of education. The language that will be English or Hindi. So, and a lot of confusion is there. So, would you like to clear that for parents?
So Alka, there is still ambiguity there, and it still needs more clearance, and we will have to wait once it gets. So different states have to give their feedback to the government. Once all of that is given, the more clarity will come. It is still very ambiguous, so we'll have to wait for some time before that clarity comes in.
So yeah, you were talking about remote and urban areas, schooling in remote and urban areas. Do you think we, after so many years of independence, we have somehow able to bridge that gap, or something more has to be done in terms of that. Right to education is there, and introduction of economic backward classes students is there. But do you think more should be done in terms of that?
Honestly, I don't think we have bridged the gap. There is still a long, long way to go, but probably NAP is a right step towards it. It will definitely help cross some more distance in that field. So a lot needs to be done there, and we all need to take onus of it. We can't just leave it to the government alone to do things. Till the time we all get up and try and do our bit, this cannot be done alone by one body and monitor by one body. So we all need to pitch in there.
And let's talk about now COVID, which has impacted the education sector in a big way. So how did your school, or as an educator, and how did you manage that? What were the inhibitions when you started in 2020? How it all started? What were the roadblocks? And how did you succeed in?
So let's understand, the biggest roadblock initially was the mindset. Okay, I myself, as an educator, as a principal of the school, felt that initially, which is when it just started and lockdown had started, that how can education be delivered from a device of a 15-inch and 15-inch? After all, education is about human connect. See, it is all about human connect, and especially with little ones. And when I say little ones, I'm not addressing only pre-primary or primary students. I mean, children in middle school also, they go through so many changes. It's all how you connect with them, a little pat at the back, speaking the body language and everything. So it was that was the biggest block that we had, was the mindset. So to understand and get into that no, it is possible. It required a lot of training and lot of brainstorming how things could be done, so that learning becomes effective even in this medium. And also we had to take care of the social emotional health of the children. And of course, I had a bigger responsibility in terms of taking taking care of social emotional health of my staff members as well, because suddenly from working women, they were all tied up at home, where they had their own children and they had their family members taking their office jobs from home and finding space and everything. So there were many challenges. As a school, what I can tell you, what we did was, there are a few steps that we did. The moment lockdown, because that happened on the 29th of March, I remember last year, where the schools were closed, and the new session just starts then. And I remember a few of my competitors just putting on the bandwagon and saying that, okay, in a week's time, we're starting online classes. We didn't do that. We took our time. We have a full-fledged training department. We took our time. We said we need to review this. I had written to my parents and said, you'll have to give me some time before we start online classes, because it requires a lot of training at the back end. Teachers need to be trained how to conduct classes. So we did a lot of training, a full month of training before we started our online classes. And we ensured, now there was another challenge, was that usually you have 25 children, 25 to 30 children in a classroom setup, in a physical class. Now, if we continued to do that, if we had 25 to 30 students in online class, then of course delivery will happen. A teacher can plan a beautiful lesson and ensure a delivery is at the best. But will learning take place? No, the answer was no. So then we hired more teachers, trained them in that 1.5 months. And even today, my batch size in an online class is only 12 students. So 12 students till grade 2, 3 upwards, we have 15. We don't even make it 16. So we are very, very particular that batch size has to be small to ensure learning is happening. And as I said, education is about human connect, so that the teacher has a connect with every child that she is meeting in that class. And it is not in a delivery mode. It is on a learning mode. So that are a few things that we did. And then, of course, during the process, hand holdings, I told you we have a full-fledged training department. Wherever teacher found a roadblock, we pitched in, even if it meant me taking classes or my headmistress or my curriculum head. We've all done that. We've all done that. So in terms of leading it from the front, yeah.
It was like students, teachers, parents all learning together.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
There were many reluctant parents as well, because mostly both the parents are working and they live in a nuclear family and they only have like 1 or 2 child, and they were not ready to get them online and for schooling purpose. How did you counsel them, and how did it impacted the the education?
So I met each and every parent personally. I'm not saying that I was able to convince 100%. See, because what we could see at that point in time last year, I couldn't see a ray of hope that, okay, it is only 1 month, it is only 2 months. And then, parents waited for the summer break to get over and thought this will get over, but it did not. So they all came back also. I have met, all my parents, and we've done online orientation as well and counseling in terms of giving them an assurance that we are taking care in terms of the learning aspect and not just delivery aspect. Today, I think, so at that point in time, especially the pre-primary parents, and which was a fact also, I told you, even I as an educator, had never imagined that education could be delivered through a device of 15 inch by 15 inch. But today, probably 1 year has gone and they've become more aware. Children themselves, and this has developed a lot of skills into children as well. Kids have become, right from a young age, very independent. They don't require an adult support. They can mute, unmute, and know their classroom agreements, sit independently, put on their table, and they know how to go about an online class. So,
Okay. So from here, how do you see the education scenario changing globally?
see, this has definitely brought change and change very drastically. Education is going to go hybrid for me. I definitely feel it is going to go hybrid. However, the brick-in model can never be changed for education. Like there are few things you can't change a brick-in model for hospitals or doctors. Today, we do a lot of consultations with doctors also online when it is something minor, but eventually, if we need it, we need to go to a brick-in model. Yeah, so it's a similar case with education. Brick-in model can never go away, but there'll be new reforms and there'll be new concepts where, and especially with metros where distances are too much, and everybody and anybody is connected all over the world. So it'll going to become like, I want to take say my education from New York. I think tomorrow the doors will be open. You could be sitting in Delhi and doing your schooling from New York. So I'm sure
more options will open.
More
for
options
students,
would open. Yeah, it is going to open up. It has opened doors for that. It's not going to remain. I think it will become more global.
Okay. So for example, what about the new students? I mean, the kids, 2 years old, preschoolers. So for them, this is normal. So the online classes are normal. So how do you introduce any kind of education or any kind of lessons to them? Because they are too young to understand anything. Because for them, a social interaction and a teacher's, pampering is required. So how do you deal with that?
So that's what I told you. One, we have a very small batch size. So every teacher knows every child, and every child, our lessons are very interactive. Every child is given an opportunity to speak. We use a lot of variety of tools and strategies to engage children. Apart from that, before we formally start lessons, all my teachers from not part of the school time. So teachers meet the student. So the class teacher would meet the child of a class one-on-one after the school hours. That half an hour is that child and teachers to build that connect. So they will play some games, and a lot of opportunities given to the child to speak. And the way they do it in classroom, mere paas ye khilona hai, main isse khelta hu, ye papa le, all the stories that they have. And which then when next day when the child comes to the class, he feels or she feels that this is my person whom I can share anything. And I am very comfortable in the space that I am. And then when the formal lesson comes in terms of uh, uh, giving that formal lesson, a variety of strategies are used, keeping the learners in mind. To an extent, my science teacher last year, so it is rightly said that necessity is the mother of invention. My science teacher last year, now grade 6 and 7 are senior grades where you need to show them things through the science lab. And in a lockdown scenario, where do you get a science lab? So my science teacher had converted her kitchen into a science lab. And she did a lot of experiments from her kitchen, so which children really enjoyed and was really appreciated by the parents as well, that teacher has gone beyond the call of duty and used her kitchen space to showcase these experiments and concepts which became more clearer to the children.
Okay.
So these are some different strategies that we use.
So do you think the online education right now, on digital platform has strengthened the bonding between teachers and students, and teachers and parents as well? Now parents, they see what teacher does in a class, and what kind of effort she puts in. Because earlier, only it was during the time of parent teacher meeting that parents and teachers used to meet, and there were a lot of complaints from both the sides. And do you think the gap has been bridged with the help of digital education?
I don't know if the gap has been bridged, but for definitely schools had to pull up their socks. See, and that is something which I feel is a very positive sign, because earlier education was completely opaque. You would,
Yeah.
as a parent, you would only know what, especially if your child was in primary grades, what school wanted to project, or a little what your child told you, right? So the school would project the best thing during the PTNs and stuff. Today, education and the quality of education has completely become transparent. The quality of teaching, the language, the quality of the teacher, everything parent can sit at home and gauge. The quality of lesson, planning, execution, everything is completely transparent, and parent can gauge. So they exactly know on how things are happening in the class, and that's when they raise their voice, which I feel is a good sign, because now the schools are getting corrected also. So you can't hire anybody and everybody as a teacher. You have to have a mindset, you need to have proper planning, training for them, which I feel is a very, very good sign.
Okay. And now about the senior classes, the 10th and 12th boards that were cancelled. And how do you see, these kids, how will they do professionally? The 12th standard now will be opting for colleges and all, and the new, system, result system, which has come in. So how do you see that? Does it hamper their skill set when they are not being tested through any kind of examination?
See, honestly, Alka, there have been an impact. I will not deny, because nobody was prepared for it. Neither CBSE as a board or any state board, nobody was prepared for it. They had to find ways to make it work now for them. And each one, so whether it was schools, the boards, and everyone had to find ways. And they've tried to come up with best solutions possible in terms of 10th and 12th, whatever the best could do. Uh, but I still feel that, I think all of them, I mean, it has definitely impacted some children, but eventually I think the whole system, so it's not about just handful of children, it's the whole generation today who's going through this. So I don't think that, they will be left behind. They will all carve their path. Somehow it might take a little longer than the usual, but
Yes.
they will all succeed. I'm very, very optimistic about it.
So the new two-term policy is also coming for 10th and 12th grade from next year
Yeah.
onward. So how do you think? Is it how healthy is it for students, or how teachers will manage that?
I honestly feel that for me personally, I feel it's a very good thing that CBSE has come up with, because it keeps the children on toes. Earlier, what used to happen was most of these younger kids at 10th and 12th, they would not take their 9th and 11th seriously. Now there is a weightage of the 9th marks and 11th marks as well. And also the internals were not taken seriously, because they all felt कि एक बारी board में perform करना है, and that's about it. So it's only about the board mark. Now it will keep them on their toes through the year. And also it is the need of an hour, because you don't know what future entails today. So, I mean, we are keeping our hands safe in the sense that you never know when another wave comes. So we're keeping our hands safe. If not this, we have another option. So they've put a lot of option, and which also keeps the children on toes, and schools as well. So it's a good thing. It's a very good thing.
So with COVID, we saw words like scientists and research and immunology and whatnot. So do you think these kind of research-based subjects should be added in the curriculum in the long run? So it will prepare our student base, because India, when it comes to tech and science, we somehow lag behind. Or students, what they want is to go abroad and pursue their research education. So do you think India should do something in that?
See, we definitely need to do a lot in this field. And I don't agree when you say that India lags behind when it comes to the science field. But I do agree when you say that most of our scientists, or the people who are from this STEM, field, move abroad because they attract our talent. Today, a lot of these countries are because our talent has gone to them. So we really need to do something to retain our young talent. That definitely needs a work on, which is another topic for debate. But I strongly feel that as a country, we can only progress with younger generation if they start working. And for that, it is very important to retain our talent, give them that work environment, culture that they need to work. And that would require a lot of revamping.
Of course. And I hope that COVID ends soon and we get to see students in schools, because empty schools
Yes, of
looks
course.
like.
Of course. I mean, there is absolutely, there is no life in school. So, schools are just, it's just a building, it's just bricks if you don't have. So yes, keeping our fingers crossed that sooner it ends and we have our life back in school.
Any message for students or teachers and parents out there who are struggling to, manage all the things at home?
I would only say, because now I feel, it's been almost 1.5 years and everybody's sort of losing its patience, including parents. They find it very difficult, especially with the younger kids. Only message that I would like to give is hold on a little more. And I think there is sunlight on the other side, and soon we'll be back. Just a little more patience. The most effective, they may not say, see, as elders, we can all talk and share and say a lot of things, get angry. The younger children don't showcase that kind of emotion. They only show through a little tantrums and behavioral change. My only message to parents would be, this could be only part of COVID, and we need to, as matured individuals, really show our empathy towards them and be a little more mature and sensitive in handling things with them. That's about it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was quite insightful as well as a parent to a young kid. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.